Good evening, everybody. All right. We're about to begin the hearing for January 14th, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. All hearings in the board are now transcribed and stored electronically. These transcripts, serving as minutes for the hearing, are accessible for review by scheduling an appointment with the board. I now make a motion that the transcripts of the previous board hearing held on December 10th, 2024 be accepted as the board's minutes for that date, and I ask for a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. Okay, Mr. Hurdle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Abraham Hurdle, counsel for the board. At the beginning of every meeting, counsel makes a few brief announcements. First, the commissioners are part-time public servants, and they have other outside interests. When they know that they have a conflict of interest, they recuse themselves. They cannot possibly know who will appear from the public in any given matter, which may present a conflict of interest to them. If anybody believes that any commissioner or commissioners has a conflict of interest in any matter, you have to announce that to us as the case is called, and the commissioner, as the case may be, will deal with that accordingly. If not, then the commissioners will proceed with all hearings under the assumption that there is no conflict of interest. Secondly, the rules of the board provide that the chair, for the purposes of judicial economy, can have the board's counsel rule on the admissibility of evidence or objections if counsel is present and objections are made. The board handles many cases at every hearing, and this assignment allows us to expedite the hearings. So rather than having the chairman turn to me and me advising the chairman, I will simply make a ruling, and my ruling will be that of the chair. Finally, with renewals coming up, as has been customary in the policy of the board and its administrators, we are unable to process and issue new licenses and transfers between the end of February and the beginning of May. With that, I turn this matter over to Chief Inspector Jim Ford, who will call the first case.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Our first item of business this evening is a decision of the board for Sip and Learn Wine and Spirits, SB Stores LLC. Samir Bargava, managing member. Inspector Jacqueline Alsip. This is a new license, 6711 Ritchie Highway, space 603, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. This is for a Class A beer, wine, liquor tasting, and Sunday license. Since there will be no testimony, if you could all just approach, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Hurdle and the chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. All right. We're here for the board's decision and deliberation on the application for a new Class A beer, wine, and liquor tasting and Sunday license for Sip and Learn. The board has had the opportunity independently to review the transcripts of our previous hearing as well as the exhibits and documents submitted by counsel. As we reviewing these applications for a new license, the board must consider factors outlined in section 4.210 of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis article. That section states the following. A, before deciding whether to approve an application and issue for a license, a local licensing board shall consider 1, the public need and desire for the license, 2, the number and location of the existing license holders, 3, the potential effects on existing license holders of the licenses for which the application is being made. Excuse me. The potential commonality and uniqueness of the services and the product to be offered by the business of the applicant. The impact of the license for which the application is made on the health, safety, and welfare of the community, including issues relating to crime, traffic, parking, and convenience. And 6, any other factor that the local licensing board considers necessary. B, the local licensing board shall deny a license application if 1, if the license board determines that any of the following or all. The granting of the license is not necessarily to accommodate the public. The applicant is not a fit person to receive the license. The applicant has made a material false statement on the application, and the applicant has acted in a fraudulently manner in connection with the application, or if the license is issued, the operation authorized by the license would unduly disturb the peace of the residents of the neighborhood at the location and the description on the application. Excuse me. And two, the other reasons for local licensing board consider sufficient. An analysis of the factors of 4 to 10, and after reviewing the testimony from the applicant, the opposition as well as the witnesses who testified in support and in opposition of the prospective license, I find that the matter of fact of the following, and I'm going to go into that very quickly, and then I'll issue a motion. All right, reviewing the transcripts and as well as watching repeatedly the video of the hearing, things that I took into consideration in making this motion that I'm about to make are following. There was 256 signatures without dates, but yet there were items given away at the table. Now, that factor is only being weighed. It's not a deciding factor. It's just the fact that there was evidence to show that. That there were 4 people in support that appeared for the applicant, and then feel that the applicant felt that there was a new concept that he wanted to present that he felt was important enough that it should be allowed to open with that concept. The statement that no liquor stores were located in 5 of the larger shopping centers was brought out, and wanted to try and change the demand curve, which was mentioned, the fact that the curve was spiraling somewhat down, and he felt that this would, he could help change that curve. Trying to sell the community on the knowledge of wines as well as himself as a licensee. There was no expert testimony presented by the applicant at that time. Some of the other issues that were brought out in opposition mainly were the fact that there was 322 petitioners who had signed the original petition, with another 187 coming out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 509 people signed in opposition. Applicants lacked experience was brought out. The 27 people that showed up in opposition that night of the hearing were represented by local residents as well as people connected with 12 different local retailers in the alcohol business. Testimony from a few of those 12 retailers as to the effects was to be expected. The effects on other Class A licenses in that immediate area where the applicant is applying to open it up. The fact that they felt the area was already saturated. They pointed out that there was 5 establishments north of the location of the applicant, as well as 9 south, or within roughly a 10-minute traveling time. They pointed out the fact that even though the name of the establishment wishing to receive a license was Sip and Learn, that there was only a small square footage of the total square footage that was set aside for classroom. And I believe the dimensions were 9 by 15, or roughly 135 square feet. The majority of that store was going to be set aside and used for retail purposes. Sip and Learn had also mentioned the fact that the applicant had mentioned the fact that they were offering 30-minute classes relevant to wine tasting and things. The people in opposition also said that they offer similar things, not necessarily classes, but that when approached by, and requested information, they would supply probably the same type of information that he was going to teach in his class. Excuse me. Consideration was given to the consumption trends that were pointed out by everybody. The effects of the cannabis sales today versus alcohol sales. There was consideration given as to whether or not there was a real desire by the public for an additional license in that area. And there was not many facts to support a need and demand that were pointed out by those people in opposition. With all that into consideration, I'm going to make a motion that we deny this license based on those facts, as well as other things that I maybe did not bring out at this particular time. And I'm looking for a second. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor of a denial of license?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, sir. I wish you a lot of luck in whatever endeavor you choose to travel.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for considering. I hope it was a difficult decision. That's a win for me.
Thank you very much. Have
Mr.
a
Chairman,
good
thank
day.
you for the record. Richard Bittner, I've been here, waive any issue. My clients, who some were here, some weren't. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Moving on, our first case of the evening is Mayo Liquors, Mayo Liquor LLC. Surinder Sandhu, Managing Member, Agent Joel Hawk, Inspector Vin Pelletier. This is a Class A beer, wine, liquor, beer, wine, spirit, tasting and Sunday license, 200 Mayo Road, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037. The license is not restricted. This is for a violation of the Annotated Code of the Maryland Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis Article, Section 6-311, restrictions on purchases and sales by retail dealer regarding Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission case number 24-0439 by Agent Joel Hawk, incident date August 14th, 2024. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please step forward and raise your right hands. Gentlemen, do you both solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. And Agent Hawk, if we could begin with you, state your name and address for the record, please.
Agent Joel Hawk, Maryland Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, 1215 East Fort Street, Baltimore, Maryland.
Sir?
Surinder Sandhu, 200 Mayor Road, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, August 14, 2024, approximately 10 a.m., I respond to Mayo Liquors located at 200 Mayo Road, Edgewater, Maryland, for the purpose of a routine inspection. Upon entering the location, I spoke with the clerk. I identified myself as agent with the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission. I observed the trader's license 0022075549 on the wall and to be valid and properly licensed for the products they had sell in the store. I conducted a systematic inspection of the cigarettes and other tobacco products displayed in the store. The clerk produced invoices for the cigarettes, and on inspection, they all appeared to have valid Maryland's tax stamps. The liquor license 352 type A BWL was also on the wall and valid. I conducted a systematic inspection of the alcohol on the premise and found a box of Crown Royal 375 milliliter whiskey with the shipping label to a different store, General's Wine and Spirits. I asked the clerk why he had a box of Crown Royal labeled for a different store. The clerk was unable to give a reason why the box of Crown Royal was in the store. The clerk called Mr. Sandhu, the owner, and he advised that he had no explanation why the Crown Royal from another store was in his store. So I seized the box of Crown Royal containing 23 bottles of 375 milliliter Crown Royal whiskey under AB 6-311, person keeping an alcohol beverage on a licensed premises. The clerk signed the confiscation receipt, and the seized liquor was submitted to ATCC for evidence.
Mr. Sandhu,
Go ahead.
Mr. Sandhu, did you have any questions of Agent Hawk?
No.
Chairman?
Okay, thank you. Agent Hawk,
Yes, sir.
we've had a fair amount of cases here just in the last 2 months, and I think several of these are concerning or involving Crown Royal. Is that correct, or the best of your knowledge, or?
Some of it has, yes, sir.
Right. Did they give any explanation at all, or any possible explanation of why they had that alcohol, which was not supposed to be on their premises?
Not at that time. They didn't produce any invoices. Mr. Sandu sent me 2 invoices for the same alcohol in April through Breakthrough. I contacted Breakthrough, and General Wines and Spirits had no deliveries of the Crown Royal during April to General's Wine and Spirits. So it wasn't like it was on the truck going to General's and they accidentally dropped it off there, because he had invoices for April, but General's Wine and Spirits had no Crown Royal delivered during that month. Is it possible that it's a delivery mistake? But again, they're required to check and make sure what's in their store belongs in their store. But along with Crown Royal and Fireball, the problem with these things is that you buy more of this stuff, you get more allocated stuff. So that's what we see a lot of, is buying these mass bulks to get that allocated stuff, and then the smaller stuff gets distributed to other stores because they can't sell that bulk in that one store, but they're not going to get the allocated stuff without buying that bulk stuff.
Okay, thank you very much, Agent. Appreciate
Yes, sir.
that. Did you want to?
Did you have any questions, commissioners?
No, no question.
Mr. Sandu, it's your turn.
Yeah, Agent Hogg, where did you find that case of Crown Royal?
On the floor, inside the store, on the ground, at the end of a aisle of alcohol.
So of course, maybe we missed checking the label, but we do not know where the liquor store is located, the General Wine. I don't even know those people. So that case was sitting there for months. You know, if we wanted to bring alcohol from another places, we could have done something. To me, it's innocent mistake. I don't know how the different label got on there, but we did purchase from RNDC, and I cannot justify, but trust me, we do not even know that liquor store person.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sandhu. I do have a couple questions for you, and I'd like to start by asking you, I think you just said it was sitting there for a couple months.
Yeah,
Did
months.
I understand that correctly?
Months, yeah.
And nobody, you or clerk or anybody made any attempt to call the distributor or anybody to inquire as to?
We did not even know it has a different label. So, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
unfortunately, yeah, okay. That's all the questions that I have for you right now, sir.
Commissioners, any
I have
questions?
no question.
I have a question about your delivery procedures. Do you item check every item that comes in the store, or do you just count number of cases, or what do you do?
Mostly number of cases, right? But to be very honest, sometimes the person working there is busy with the customers, and one delivery comes and then another delivery comes, and it's so hard to check it. But after this, we try to check all the deliveries now, because we realize the drivers could make a mistake, and I'm going to be penalized for that.
Okay, is that all the questions, Commissioner? Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to add or say before I make a
No.
motion? Okay, fine. Mr. Sandhu, I understand the situation, but I also understand the circumstances of that alcohol sitting in your store where it did not belong for several months, I believe you said.
Yeah.
And I really wish you or an employee would have taken the initiative to at least make an attempt to find out where. I think that would have probably made things a little easier. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that I find you guilty, and I'm going to assess a penalty of $500, sir. And the only thing I want to add to that is, as you said, please be more careful in the future. My motion is guilty, with a $500 fine. Looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So said, sir.
thank you, sir.
Lots of luck in the future, and please be careful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next case is Bill's Lounge and Liquor. Oh, thank you, Ms. Carter. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please do approach the table and remain standing. And if you could, please raise your right hands. Thank you very much. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you very much. You may be seated. And if we could start to my left with your name and address for the record, please, officer.
Detective Thomas Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police.
Detective Charles Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police.
And ma'am, your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Joanne Starner, 5808 63rd Avenue.
Thank you.
Indu Bhatia, 9311 Aquacon Overlook Drive, Lawton, VA 22079.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Linda Carter, Carter Law, 11720 Beltsville Drive, Suite 100, Beltsville, Maryland, 20705.
Richard Bittner, BITTNER, on behalf of the licensee, Mr. William Chewing Jr., whose presence has been gracefully waived by the board. Thank you for that.
And Mr. Chairman, the clerk involved in the incident is sitting behind us. Sir, why don't you come up to
Yes,
to
please.
give your name and address, please?
Is he sworn in?
I don't know.
Did you take the oath? Did you stand up?
Yes, sir. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And if you could state your name and address for the record.
James Rios, 8342 Deer Run Court, 7 Maryland, 21144.
Thank you very much.
Detective?
Good evening. On December 2nd, 2024, at approximately 7:45 in the evening, Detective Middleton and I were working selective alcohol violation enforcement of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter Bill's Lounge, which is located in 1688 Annapolis Road, Severn, Maryland, which is in Anne Arundel County. We observed the confidential source enter the business. Confidential source went into the store, picked up a six-pack of Miller Lite bottled beer, and took it to the front counter. The clerk did not ask for the confidential source for identification. Confidential source was given official Anne Arundel County funds prior to entering the establishment and before purchasing the Miller Lite bottled beer. Confidential source then exited the business and immediately turned over the alcoholic beverages to myself and Detective Middleton. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Miller Lite bottled beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I then entered the establishment, identified ourselves as police officers, and positively identified the clerk as James Omar Rios Valierdes, let's say it correctly, who's seated at my left. The clerk advised that he was alcohol awareness trained and advised of the violation. The photograph was taken of the clerk, and the Anne Arundel County liquor license was properly displayed. The licensee, William Chew Jr., was not present at the scene, and the photograph was taken of the alcoholic beverages and then was subsequently destroyed. The clerk was cooperative, and the store was not busy at the time of the sale. This copy was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and this case is closed.
Ms. Carter?
I have no questions of the detective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair?
I have a couple of questions, Detective.
Sir?
Excuse me. Mr. Rios Valadares said that he was alcohol awareness trained. Is
Yes.
that correct? He
Yes, sir.
identified himself as being trained. Thank you. Who else was in the store? I understand Mr. Tuning wasn't. So who else was in the store with him at that time? Do
As
you
far
know?
as employees, just Mr. Valadares.
Okay. Mr. Valadares, did he say he was on the management agreement or identify himself as being
I
on?
don't recall. I just know
Okay.
that Mr. Chu was not present.
All right, no, that's fine. I was curious.
It's okay.
I have no further questions for the detective at this time.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, we're going to make this very easy. My clients acknowledged that the sale took place, and they acknowledged that there was no approved manager on the premises at the time. They currently have 4 valid manager forms on file with the board. For some reason that night, none of the 4 managers were there. They understand that that is not acceptable, and they are in the process of making sure that there aren't that many employees. It runs between 8 and 10, and sometimes there's just one in the bar, restaurant, and one in the lounge. So they're going to just do it for all of them, so that at all times there is somebody that this board can talk to and get whatever information that they need immediately. I do have a copy of Mr. Valderez's tip certification. I also have copies, and if I could introduce these as exhibits, please, of the tip certifications for all of the employees as is required. And they have had a lot of new hires, and they have been very fastidious in making sure that the new hires are immediately certified. In fact, they had employees, and Mr. Islam, Mikhail Islam, who just recently started, was just certified on January 3rd of this year. So they understand that they need to do that. In terms of the sale, it's always problematic to me when, and Joanne Starner has regular one-on-ones with her employees to remind them of the importance of carding. And at the time, they had an integrated scanner, but it could be bypassed. It can no longer be bypassed. I also have copies of the notices that have been put by the cash registers. And Mr. Bittner, I apologize, I haven't been giving you copies of all this, that notify basically the customer, if you don't have an ID that scans, we don't make the sale. The cashier does not, in the liquor store, does not have the authority to override the system, period. It's 100%. My understanding that Mr. Valderez, while he was relatively a new hire at this location, previously worked for a wholesaler and was very familiar with the liquor industry. And he was certified that night. He just didn't do what he should have done, and unfortunately, we didn't have a manager on site.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Commissioners, Chair, any questions?
I'm very bothered by the
I am
fact,
too, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sure you are, Ms. Carter. I'm sure
Not a
you are.
position I like to be in, as you well know.
Yes, and I think you know where I'm going to go with this. First of all, is he on the management agreement, or has he since been placed on the management agreement?
He's no longer working for the company.
Oh, he's no longer, okay.
No, sir.
Well,
We have a partially completed manager form for him, but he's not working for the
okay. No, that's fine. I
business
understand
anymore.
that then. Unfortunately, Bill's Lounge, just within the last year, has been in here twice before for sale to minors. This is the third offense. One of them was October 31st of '24, and then prior to that, it was April 14th of '24. This is the third time for non-compliance for sale to minors. We take it very serious, and I know you're aware of this. I'm concerned that the management there perhaps wasn't as active or proactive in making sure that their employees were trained and vetted to do this. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a motion of a guilty verdict. And because it's the third time in a short period of time, a very short period of time, I'm going to make a motion to assess a $1,500, excuse me. I'm sorry. Our attorney, Mr. Hurdle, did point out that it's not the third, but the second violation. There was another violation, but it wasn't related to sale to minor.
Correct.
So that actually makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was thinking, I didn't know about 2 sale to minors prior, and it's like, wait, what happened here?
Yeah, well, we'll get our records or my records straightened out. But anyway, I'm still going to go ahead and assess the guilty verdict. It's going to make a difference in the assessment and the motion for an assessment of a fine. I'm going to fine that the establishment is guilty and fine $1,000 per charge for those 2 charges. That's a total of $2,000 plus a $100 fine for ownership and operation. So a total of $2,100 in fine plus cost of administrative fees. Looking for a second. Thank you. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lots of luck.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Carter, you can stay right where you are if you
Thank you
if you
so
choose.
much. And my
because-
clients hope not to see you again, except for the transfer hearing.
Okay.
So we are going to go just a little bit out of order. We're going to skip ahead briefly to Szechuan Inn, Risings, Inc., One Way Rao, member, CEO, Inspector Megan Harlow. This is not restricted. It is a transfer. It's currently Jaden Chen, president on behalf of JEJ Restaurant, Inc., trading as Szechuan Inn, located at 558 Benfield Village Shopping Center, Severna Park, Maryland, 21146. It's a Class H beer, wine, liquor, dancing, and Sunday license. Thank you. Sir, do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. You may be seated. And if you could, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Wang Wei Lao. Address 8207 Wapati, 8207 Wapati Court, Pasadena 21122.
Thank you very much.
Good evening again.
Ms. Carter?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, I'm still into Carter, at least I think. And it is my pleasure to be before you in Szechuan Inn. Szechuan Inn is actually special to me because my husband grew up in Severna, well, kind of sort of grew up in Severna Park by way of Indiana, but he graduated from Severna Park High School. And when we were dating in law school, the Szechuan Inn was one of the very first restaurants he ever took me to. And we've been married for 42 years, so that tells you how long that restaurant has been an institution in Severna Park. And it's gone through highs and lows. I'll be very honest. When we first were dating, it was fabulous, and then it hit a time where it wasn't so great. Well, guess what? It's back. My client is an experienced restaurant operator, and I know he came before you last month, and unfortunately he had hired a consultant, and with the help of the consultant and this board, filed a completed application for transfer. But his consultant never bothered to tell him about what was required for the hearing. So he came in pretty much underprepared. We've met 3 times. He does have a language barrier, but he does speak and understand English. Sometimes you have to repeat the question more than once, but he absolutely gets it. He is alcohol awareness certified, and this is his life. He is there from before opening to after closing, 7 days a week. He is always there. I have told him that he needs to file a manager form for somebody else because he may need to run to the bank or to go to the grocery store. and he understands that, and we're working on putting together manager for him. So there's somebody else there just in case. But I have dropped by on the 3 occasions, pretty much unannounced, and he's there. He's had 7 years' experience in the restaurant business, including 2 working at the Szechuan Inn. He's also worked at Denny's. The existing licensee is still assisting him in the operation of the business. And my understanding is the existing licensee, and I'm hoping this is accurate because this is what I've been told, has had no violations. And my client certainly hasn't had any violations. We do have an exhibit book, if we could please give this to the board. It's got a layout, the online menu, and some photographs of the food. He has been working with your staff, who has been so incredibly helpful to him in providing the staff with the remaining documents that he'll need to effectuate the transfer. I think the one thing that I'm going to be assisting him with, because he just didn't know what it was, is the federal tax stamp. But outside of that, all of his permits have been transferred to Rising Sun. Rising's 558 Inc., his trader's license, his Maryland sales and use tax, his health department permit, fire, his capacity. Everything else, it appears to me to be in order, so hopefully he's going to be able to actually have a license in his name, assuming the board approves the transfer to him. And Mr. Chairman, I would proffer to the board that all of the information contained in the application is still true and accurate as he appears before you today. And Mr. Chairman, I know you've got 2 questions you want to ask him, and he's prepared.
Okay, thank you. And this Szechuan Inn pamphlet explains a lot as far as, what's going on there. The last time you were in here, I felt like you wouldn't have not been prepared. So I'm glad to see you, retain an attorney, and that I think the only questions that I have is the fact that even though there might be a little bit of a language barrier or a situation, it might behoove you to perhaps have employees who could assist you if and when a time arises where an inspector or a police officer, fire marshal, or for that matter, anybody comes in and has a question. So I'm just going to point that out. And so I'm not going to use that to determine anything other than the fact that that's a suggestion. I'm aware of Szechuan Inn and its history over there, and I don't remember anything or ever hearing of anything that would be contrary to what Ms. Carter has said. So with that being said, I don't have any further questions or any questions for you, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that to the other commissioners to see if they do.
I have no questions.
I have no question.
Okay, anything else you want to say, Ms. Carter?
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. I do have a copy of his tips card if you'd like it.
Yeah, I notice he's on the management agreement now, too.
Yes.
I do suggest, like Ms. Carter said, that you do find a couple of employees that you can put on your manager's agreement. You may expect to be there every minute of every day, but there's going to come a time where you have to go to the bank or maybe go get food supplies or become sick or whatever, and there has to be somebody who's either on the license with you or on a management agreement. So I highly recommend you do that. My office will be more than glad to help you out with that. All you have to do is call up there, or Ms. Carter, her office. I'm going to make a motion that we accept the transfer, and looking for a second.
I second the motion.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you so much, and your courtesy to me is greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Ms. Carter.
Thank you
sir.
so
Lots of
much.
luck to you.
Congratulations. Our next case is Chesapeake Liquors, J Liquors, Inc., Rita Kirpara, President, Secretary, Treasurer, Katul Pravanbhati, Clerk, Detective Middleton, badge number 1061. Detective Cepeda, badge number 1239. Inspector Jacqueline Alsup. This is a Class A beer, wine, liquor tasting and Sunday license located at 6720C Governor Ritchie Highway, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. This license is restricted. As of 9/27/2005, all employees must be alcohol awareness certified within 60 days of hire. There are 4 charges. The first is violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01A, minors, regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 24-740471 by Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Cepeda, number 1239, incident date November 6, 2024. Charge 2, violation of alcoholic beverages and cannabis article annotated Code of Maryland Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individuals under the age of 21 years regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 24-740471 by Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Cepeda, number 1239, incident date November 6, 2024. Charge 3, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.01D, ownership and operation regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 24-740471 by Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Cepeda, number 1239, incident date November 6, 2024, the fourth and final violation of the Maryland Annotated Code, Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis, Title 11, Section 1902.1, Alcohol Awareness Program regarding Anne Arundel County Police, number 24-740471 by Detective Cepeda, number 1239, and Detective Middleton, number 1061, incident date November 6, 2024. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please approach the table, which you have. Thank you for remaining standing. Please raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may be seated. Thank you. And Detective Middleton, if we could begin with you, with your name and address for the record, please.
This will be Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Detective Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Sir, your name and address for the record.
John Kirpara, 8319 Kippis Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
Thank you.
Rita Hirpura, 1634 Braid Hills Drive, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
Thank you.
Etu Kumar Prajapati, 103 North Charter Road, Apartment B.
Thank you.
Shirish Hirpara, 1634 Braid Hills Drive, Pasadena, MD 21122.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hurdle?
Okay. Good evening, Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police. This incident occurred on November 6th of 2024, approximately 7 p.m. Detective Cepeda and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses here in Anne Arundel County. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter Chesapeake Liquors, 6720 Ritchie Highway, Glen Burnie, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. Confidential source went into the store, picked out a 6-pack of Flying Dog Double Dog IPA beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, was able to purchase the Flying Dog Double Dog IPA beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification. CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverages to myself, Detective Cepeda. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that the Flying Dog Double Dog IPA is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Katul Pravahati with the date of birth of January 25th, 1994, via his India driver's license. A photograph was taken of the clerk and of his identification, and a copy of the liquor license that was hanging on the wall. The clerk, Mr. Pravati, has told us he did not have any alcohol awareness training. And there was only one other employee that was in the store, and both employees advised that they were not on the manager's agreement. Mr. Provati advised that he had only been a part-time employee for a few months. And when asked, he advised the manager, Janik Patel, had already left for the day. And a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and that would be our statement of facts.
Do the licensees have any questions for the detective? Chairman?
Okay. Detective, you you claim that when you went in there and you spoke to them, you asked them if they had alcohol awareness training, the clerk, I mean.
Correct.
And they said they did not?
Correct.
You also asked them if they were on the management agreement, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And they answered to the negative that they did not?
Did not.
Or were not? Okay. Was there a second clerk in the store at that time?
There was.
Did they approach you or have anything to say as far as your questions to the clerk?
No, they were standing behind the counter together, and he just kind of nodded his head. I don't believe he had any ID on him. I was not able to identify him for the report. But he did understand the questions of, to my belief, that was he alcohol awareness trained? And the bigger question was, I had questioned him because I wanted to make sure he wasn't the manager on duty, which he said he was not.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
No question.
It's now the licensee's turn to either refute or offer rebuttal testimony.
We do apply for them management, so they already, and they got the license for the certificate. We already got them for them to the training license. After the matter, not the before, but we
Okay.
already did all those
Yeah,
work for
excuse
them.
me, just one at a time, please, for the record. I apologize.
I believe I understand what you're saying is they are on the management agreement, which I do have a record of, and they are alcohol awareness trained, but they were not at the time the detectives were in the store, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else that you'd like to offer?
Chairman, do you have any other questions?
Well, you answered those questions. I mean, that was going to be my probably most important point to bring out, the fact that at that time of the violation, they were not. Are you aware of the fact that you have previous alcohol sale to minors, but they're considerably quite a while ago, 2003, 2005.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive that you've been able to go
Thank you.
without a reoccurrence. So I just want you to know that, I am aware of it, but at the same time, congratulate you, at least up to the point of that visit. I have no further questions at this time. So.
Commissioners?
No question.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion. Before I do, I just want to go over this with you. You have 4 charges that were brought against the establishment. The violation of sale to minors, which is a county rule and regulation. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just adding.
No. Excuse us.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, he misunderstood, that's right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right. And then the second charge, of course, is the state charge for sale to minor. And then you have the ownership and the operation, as well as the alcohol awareness. And that it relates to the fact that you had a clerk there and he was the only person there. And he was not either on the management agreement or alcohol awareness trained at that time. So that we're clear, you understand those 4 charges. All right. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion at this time. I'm going to make a motion because of the testimony and the fact that you're not rebuking the testimony. You don't have a problem with what the officer said, so thank you for your honesty on that. And the fact that it's been so many years since any liquor board has seen you, again, kudos to that effect. But at the same time, in this particular case, I'm going to find you guilty, and I'm going to find you guilty of all 4 of the violations. Now, because this is the first one in quite a while for sale to minors, I'm going to make a motion that we set a fine of $500 for each of the 2 charges relating to that. That's $1,000. I'm also going to make a motion that we add a $100 fine for no alcohol awareness training for that employee that night, and another $100 fine for not being on a manager's agreement. Let me say this, even though I congratulated you for a long time without a violation or sale to a manager, this is on your record. So if you come back in next time, if found guilty, it's going to be probably a stiffer and harder penalty. But it's really important that I stress the fact, not just to you, but to everybody sitting here in this room tonight, that the alcohol awareness training is very important. It can stop you from getting in trouble. It can help you or save you. And the same thing goes with the alcohol awareness training by the employees. So my motion is $500 for each of the first 2 charges, plus $100 for the second or the third and fourth charge. It's a total of $1,200. Okay, I'm looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you for the second. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so be it. Lots
Thank
of
you.
luck. Hope
Thank
not to
you.
see you again. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, our next case is JP's Liquor Fair.
We're present, we'll waive a read.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please approach the table and remain standing. And if you could remain standing and raise your right hand, thank you very much. Do you solemnly swear to and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated. Detective Middleton, if we could start with you.
I don't think they Chief, I don't think they identified themselves.
Oh, they're going to.
Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Detective Cepeda, Arundel County Police, Western District.
Richard Bittner on behalf of licensees.
Eaton, 675 Ravenwood Drive, Grand Bernie 21060.
Keegan side, the address is 1233 Upper Petation Ridge Road in Odenton, Maryland 21113.
Thank you very much.
Detectives? Good evening. On November 6, 2024, approximately 7:15 hours, Detective Middleton and I were conducting alcohol sales compliance checks to retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter the JP Liquor Fair located at 6736 Ritchie Highway. That's in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in Arundel County. We observed the confidential source enter the establishment. The confidential source went to the store and picked up a 6-pack of Busch Light beer and took it to the front counter. Confidential source was given official Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Busch Light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask for the confidential source for identification. The confidential source then exited the establishment and immediately turned over the alcoholic beverages to myself and Detective Middleton. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Busch Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I then entered the establishment, identified ourselves as police officers, and identified the clerk as Ki Jung Z.
Actual is Keegan side.
Okay, apologize.
Clerk is present, we'll stipulate.
Thank you. He was identified via his Maryland driver's license. The clerk stated, I know I should have asked him for ID. quote, end quote. Photograph was then taken of Mr. Z and his identification. A photograph was taken of the Busch Light beer, and it was then subsequently destroyed. The clerk has had alcohol awareness training and has been working in the store for 10 years. He advised that he was on the manager's agreement. The photograph was taken of the liquor license, which was properly displayed inside the establishment. He was cooperative and polite. This case is closed.
I'm going to stop you at this point. I have a question that I have for Mr. Bittner. Mr. Bittner, the clerk that was there that evening, is he present?
It's this gentleman to my.
Okay, and then we have two other people.
Yes, this is Ms.
Yi Zhen.
Yi Zhen, the president, and then I'm not sure they got identified, the secretary and assistant secretary, Ki Zi and Yaping Chen are here. Just state your names. You don't need to.
Yan-Ping Chen, 2744 Price Road, Crofton, Maryland, 21114.
Okay, thank you.
Assistant Secretary.
Yes, thank you very much. I apologize, Mr. Bittner. We weren't sure that everybody was in attendance that was summoned, so.
No, thank you for that. I was trying to.
No, thank you for clearing.
My name is
that up.
Ki Yun Xie, address 1418 Dogway Circle, Alton, Maryland, 21113.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Yep. I'm sorry, proceed, please.
Mr. Bittner, do you have any questions of the detectives?
Yes. Detective Payton, your report references that the store was very busy as well.
Oh, yes.
That's actually Detective Middleton's report. The 19-year-old clerk, do you have a picture of that person? I don't have any other questions.
Chairman, any questions of the detectives?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioners?
No question.
I don't have any other questions.
Oh,
And most respectfully, we'll submit on that evidence like to be heard in mitigation.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Bittner?
Thank you. As you heard, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Z, the clerk, also the manager, properly alcohol awareness certified, properly registered with the board as a manager, was working, very busy, and he knew and said right as it happened that he made a mistake, he should have pardoned him. I would also tell you that that evening he was suffering from some intestinal discomfort, and he tells me, quite honestly, he just wasn't his self that day. This is an extended family operation. Two of the licensees are owner-operators. They're there almost every day. Mr. Z's there almost every day. Very well-run, busy place. Has not been before you in some 3 years. Prior contact 3 years ago was a clerk who was fired. Mr. Z is the manager, and as I say, extended family. Couldn't fire himself. Didn't want to fire himself. But I can tell you he's beat himself up about it. He's been in quite extensive contact with my office, agonizing over this, as have all of the owners, because it is out of character given the high volume that they do. It has been over 3 years, just about 3 years, since the last contact. I'd ask you to take that into consideration. I'd ask you to consider the establishment's prompt acceptance of responsibility. They're being properly documented with the board in terms of paperwork, which we know is important to you. And we ask you to issue a reprimand in this case.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. I'm going to make a motion at this time. The motion in this case is, and I am aware of the fact that they had one previous violation within the last 5 years, and then, but just prior to that, in 2018 and 2019, they had also 2 violations. Now, just so you understand, we're aware that you had 3 violations in the last 6 or so years. I'm not going to take that into consideration when it comes to making this motion. I am going to take into consideration that you had 1 in the last 5 years. It's, you know, I don't want to go way back in time and penalize you for something that, you know, but at the same time, you've had 1 fairly recently. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we do find you guilty. And I'm going to make a motion that the fines be $500 for each of the 2 counts, a total of $1,000 plus administrative fees. I'm looking for a second.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Thank you,
Thank
and lots
you.
of luck in the
Thank you very
future.
much.
No.
All right, thank you very much. Our next case is Spencer's One Stop. Spencer's One Stop LLC. Mr. Bittner, would you like to waive the reading?
Thank you, Richard Bittner, on behalf of Spencer's One Stop. Approaching the trial table, the licensee and the clerk will waive a reading.
Thank you, and if there's anybody else who wishes to testify for or against, please approach now. Remain standing and raise your right hands, please. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Detective Middleton.
Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Detective Charles Sopetta, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
For the record, whether denied.
And I'm sorry, sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Matthew Spencer, 638 Baystone Court, Annapolis, 21409.
Thank you. Sir.
Roger McGee, 413 Hillcrest Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21225.
Thank you very much. Detective.
Good evening. This incident was November 6, 2024. It was approximately 6:30 p.m. Detective Sopetta and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales.
Just make an objection for the record. It looks like he's testifying.
Can overrule the objection.
Okay. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, who have verified through MVA records. I have a certified copy here tonight. The board needs to take a look at that. To enter the Village Liquors at 720. Nope, I'm sorry. It's the wrong address. Yeah. To enter the 4300 Ritchie Highway, Spencer's One Stop Liquors. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The CS went to the store, picked out a 6-pack of Busch Light beer, took it to the front counter. CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, was able to purchase the Busch beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification.
Objection, personal not.
Overruled.
The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverages to myself and Detective Sopetta. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Busch Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Sopetta and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Roger McGee, who's seated over on the left, via his Maryland identification. Mr. McGee advised that he had asked the owner, Mr. Matthew Spencer, who was also in the store, if he had recognized the CS as a regular customer. Mr. Spencer told him that he was, and that is when he sold the Busch Light beer to the CS. Mr. Matthew Spencer was there behind the, sitting aside the store. He verified the incident with myself and Detective Sopetta. Photographs were taken of Mr. McGee and his identification. A photograph was taken of the Busch Light beer, and it was subsequently destroyed. Mr. McGee advised that he had been working in the store for 17 years and has had the alcohol awareness training. Both were polite and cooperative, and I do not remember if the store was busy at the time, but a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. And that would be our statement of facts.
Mr. Bittner, any questions?
Thank you. Detective, you weren't in the store when this before the transaction occurred.
Was not.
You were outside.
Exactly.
And Detective Cepeda was outside with you as well.
Correct.
So you didn't hear, neither of you heard any conversations, discussions between the confidential source and any store employee?
Just what I was told by the store owner.
And the store owner told you that they thought they recognized the person. Or recognized the person.
As a regular customer, yeah.
And Mr. McGee indicated to you that he did in fact ask the confidential source for identification. And the confidential source said he didn't have it.
I do not remember that.
Now, the confidential source, what training does that source receive before he goes on an Operation Save?
Well, before they get signed up, or part of the sign-up process, they go through, we give them several, probably about 2 hours worth of training of what the operation entails, and part of that is us getting their identification of, to verify that they are under the age of 21. We search them before and after the operation to make sure they don't have any identification or other monies on them, so that there's no ability of the CS to have a fake ID or something like that to use inside one of the liquor establishments. So we check them before and after each operation, and they're instructed to, if they're asked for identification, to just tell the clerk that they don't have it with them, and if they don't get the sale, then they're just told to leave the store, come back outside.
Okay, so this is oral training, nothing in writing?
No.
And who provides the training?
We do.
So it's you and the detective is put together.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you do it by yourself, or he do it by himself?
No, we generally do it if there's two or three of us that are there to do it. A lot of times there's one of the supervisors that goes out with us on the operation.
But there's no standardized written policy as to what the training should entail?
No.
What, if anything, is the confidential source instructed to say when they're in the store?
We just send them in, and it's more of them just asking, like we said, to grab whatever they can to take it up to the counter to attempt to purchase, any alcoholic beverage inside the store. There's no specific brand or, type of alcoholic beverages. We leave that up to them, because a lot of times, these are younger, they're not used to purchasing alcohol, and they're nervous to begin with when you're sending them into a store that they've never been into. So we leave that up to them, what to grab to attempt to purchase at the counter.
So there's no script that they're supposed to follow?
No.
Are they permitted to provide disinformation or make false statements to the clerks?
We do not encourage that. But sometimes, if they're nervous and, someone asks them if they're 21 and they state that they are, then, that's, it's under the circumstances. We don't instruct them to do that on a regular basis. But we've found through our investigations of alcohol violations involving other incidents that a lot of the sales are made to underage kids because they go in there to attempt to buy alcohol, then they're going to, generally say that they're 21 so they can try to buy alcohol. Normal people, the kids that are out trying to attempt to buy alcohol are going to do that. So it's not outside the realm for one of the CSs. If they're asked by the clerk if they're over 21, they can answer yes. So it's not instructed to do that, but if it happens, we have to deal with it.
And of course, that would be a false statement in an attempt to commit a criminal offense, would it not?
If that's your opinion of.
Minor can't purchase alcohol. Delinquent offense?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no policy directing them not to make any false or fraudulent misrepresentation to the clerk in the course of undertaking their confidential activities with your agency.
There's no written policy.
Okay. And nor are they instructed not to do that.
Yes, we do instruct them when we train them, but under duress and some of their, nervousness, it happens. So I can't, I'm not in the store when that's going on, and so we can't completely control that situation.
And again, neither of you officers were in the store during this transaction.
Correct.
How was this confidential enforce dressed? Do you remember?
Dressed? Jeans and a jacket with a hat, I believe.
The ball cap.
Yeah, like some type of hat on.
Anyone tell the confidential source to wear a baseball hat, a ball cap?
Nah, they just whatever they show up in.
Nobody tells them whether to shave or sport facial
Mr.
hair?
Bittner.
No.
Now, save selective alcohol violation enforcement. Are there any written policies about which establishments you officers choose to investigate at any particular time?
No.
How do you make decisions as to what establishments to go into?
We go to a geographical area and try to hit every place that sells alcohol in that area.
So do you go to restaurants?
Mm-hmm.
Clubs?
No, we don't send them into clubs. It's too. It's like an officer safety issue on the CS. We don't subject them to. It's too dangerous to put them inside of a club.
Taverns?
Yes.
Do you keep any statistics about when and where and who goes into these establishments?
We send a list to the health department and the liquor board of all the places that are checked and which ones pass and which ones don't.
Are you aware if the establishments are ever notified?
They are.
This establishment wasn't selected by you because of any complaints from the neighborhood, correct?
No.
Or any perceived problem in the neighborhood by the operation of Spencer's?
No.
It was just random, is that what I
Correct.
understand? And your activities are funded through the health department?
Correct.
Are you required to make a certain number of investigations? Is there a quota?
No.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Chairman?
A couple questions. Establishments did you visit?
Believe it was 10.
And were some of those your confidential source were refused service?
Yes.
So it's not 10 establishments, 10 non-compliances. It's basically, it is what it is.
Correct.
All right. Is that pretty much the norm when you go out? You have some that could be or are a violation and some are not?
Yeah, sir. I believe that night, I don't have the list.
It was 10.
It was, 10 places, but I believe we got 5 violations, 5 out of 10 places. We've also been out on other operations where we got 0 violations out of 10 places. So it's very random, the amount, we get.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I would be glad if, when you start going out and you go to 10 places, you get no non-compliances or no violations. That means that, things are working the way we want them to work and the way I'm sure the police department and our citizens want it to work. So, but okay, I think you answered the question as far as the fact that there were, in that evening that you went out, approximately 50% non-violations or non-compliance. The conversation that you mentioned in your report that took place when the clerk had referred to Mr. Spencer, the licensee or owner, are you aware of any or of that conversation? Were you there during that conversation?
Well, yeah, when we went in and identified ourselves as police officers, the clerk was very upset because he told us he relied on his owner when he looked over when he was making the sale, and it's like the owner approved of him to make the sale, and so he was upset that it had happened, and the owner stated to us that it was part of the conversation that it was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that.
Okay, I just wanted to
we were
clarify.
there for that part of the conversation. No, I was not inside the store when the transaction happened, but that was the conversation once we went in the store after
Okay.
the violation.
I understand, thank you. No further questions for the officers?
Commissioners?
No question.
I don't
Mr.
have any
Bittner?
questions in light of the chair's questions.
Any rebuttal?
Still in the case, we'd like to call Mr. McGee as a witness. Clerk. Sworn. Sir, just state your name again for the record, please.
My name is Roger McGee,
Sir, and where are you employed?
Spencer's Liquors,
And how long have you been employed there?
about 17 years.
And let me direct your attention back to November the 6th of last year, around 6 p.m. in the evening. You remember the incident that has been discussed here this evening?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the chairman and members of the board what happened?
Well, when he came in, sir, when he didn't have an ID with asking, because my boss works daytime and I'm the nighttime closer, I asked my boss if he recognized him, if he was a regular, because he didn't have an ID, and my boss said he looked like a regular, and that's when I chose to serve him with my boss's consent.
So you asked this person for identification,
Yes, sir. That's the only reason I would have asked my boss if he looked like a regular.
and the confidential enforcer told you he didn't have one.
Yes, sir.
And it's my understanding that in your 17 years of experience, oftentimes after a person's asked for ID, they get upset, they become belligerent.
Yeah, most of the time when they've been coming in as regulars, they get a little upset and agitated because I can't remember their face. and they like to get verbally abusive and ignorant.
And is that what prompted you to ask Mr. Spencer if he knew this person?
Yes, sir.
And how was the person dressed?
To be honest, I couldn't remember. I just didn't want to serve somebody without proper reason, and that's why I asked my boss when he didn't have his ID on him.
And Mr. Spencer indicated to you that he
He
recognized
looked
him?
like a regular, yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Mr. McGee.
Chair.
I do. Mr. McGee,
Yes,
a
sir.
couple questions.
Yes, sir.
On the night in question, when the confidential source came in, you asked him for ID, and
Yes, sir.
he said he didn't have any
Yes, sir.
ID. If your employer, Mr. Spencer, was not there and you were by
I
yourself.
wouldn't have served him.
Okay, and the fact that you asked Mr. Spencer and he said he was, he thought he was a regular, that was enough.
Yes, sir. That was the only reason.
Did Mr. Spencer give you any other instructions as to what you should or shouldn't do? Did he say it's okay to ring him up, or you can't
Once he
serve
said
him,
he
or-
looked like a regular, he said it was, I assumed it was okay and rung the gentleman up.
Okay, I have no further questions for you. Mr. Spencer, do you remember that night in question?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, may I just ask a follow-up question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah.
Mr. McGee, in fact, the confidential enforcer stood there with his money in his hand.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McGee, were you working on the night of November 27th of 2022? I know it's a date, but it was a date in which there was another sale.
Yes, sir. That was me.
You
But that wasn't me?
No.
Or was that Davey?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My recollection, and I tried to pull my old files, that it was not Mr. McGee.
That was Davey. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies, sir.
It
It was me? Okay.
There were two instances. One was right after the death of my client's sister, and it was a nephew.
Yeah, there was one. There was one November 22nd of 21 and another incident November 27th of 22. So you could be speaking, you and Mr. Aronson could be talking about two different events?
Perhaps. There are two priors.
Okay.
And my recollection was one was not Mr. McGee. The other, I do not have a
Okay.
recollection.
But Mr. McGee, you do remember
Yes, sir.
the non-compliance check, or commonly referred to as a sting, occurring, and you were a clerk of that night,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spencer, do you, in your best recollection, do you remember seeing this person before? Is that why you instructed your Mr. McGee?
He looked very familiar from a kid I carded 2 days prior that had just turned 21. And the reason I say that is because I gave the kid, I told him I'll do it one time because he had the vertical, I wanted the horizontal next time. And he had just turned 21.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Commissioners?
No question.
If I may, just invite the board's questions. So, Mr. Spencer, the confidential source who came into the store, given the way he was dressed and the way he held himself, you believed you knew him.
Correct.
And in fact, you believed you knew him because you had just carded him days before, right at his birthday.
Correct.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you, by the way, for your testimony. This is a situation that we find ourselves here in quite a bit. And unfortunately, it's a situation of us not being there and not actually seeing or overhearing. So we have to take testimony, and then we have to take your testimony, the officers, and make a decision based on that. I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to go ahead and make a motion in this case. There are two charges. One is the minors, which is the Anne Arundel County charge, and then the state sales of a person under the age of 21. It is the responsibility of the licensee and the employees and those people on a management agreement or otherwise to make sure that they're selling to someone over the age of 21. And it's not that I don't necessarily believe Mr. Spencer or yourself, it's just that the facts, all the facts in general, lead me to believe that not enough caution or care was taken before this sale was made. So I'm going to make a motion, but before I do want to remind everybody that there was a violation for sale to a minor, November 22nd of 2021, and one again November 27th of 2022. This makes the third violation for a sale to a minor. I'm going to make a motion, and when I do, I'm going to add a word of caution. If this motion carries, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Bittner.
Well, I just, certainly for your motion, but if I'd like to maybe heard mitigation.
Of course, please, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I understand you found the establishment in violation. And yes,
Mr. Bittner, no one's found anyone in violation yet.
So procedurally, perhaps I should wait for the motion.
Perhaps we can have the board vote on finding of guilt and then mitigation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to make a motion to find you guilty on both charges. And because it's your third offense, I'm going to make a motion that you be fined $1,500 in each charge. It's a total of $3,000 plus the cost for the administrative fee. And we're also going to add a warning that this is 3 times in a short period. I highly recommend you not come in front of this board again. And whatever you need to do, Mr. Spencer, you should take every care and caution not to come back in front of this board again. So my motion is guilty, fine of $1,500 in each case, a total of $3,000 plus costs.
And if I may, at this time, other commissioners, we're just going to talk about the guilty finding, and then Mr. Bittner is going to talk in mitigation, and we can possibly revisit the fine based on Mr. Bittner's request for mitigation.
Well,
Did you want to speak? How about you speak now, Mr.
Well,
Bittner?
I believe that opportunity has just been eviscerated, but yes, the record speaks for itself. There's 3 violations in 3 years, but there's 45 plus years of no violations. Yeah, we all hear the old adage, once is bad luck, twice is a coincidence, and 3 times is a pattern. But 3 times spanning over 3 years, first occurring after death of the family and the licensee, second, an error. Here, yeah, Mr. Spencer concedes and he admits he should have done better. But we have a situation where there was an honest misbelief that the person who came in, and I'd ask the board most respectfully and I support what the officers do. I have a long history with that program, but I believe the industry is entitled to have some regularity in how these stings are policed, in the training, the statistics, how people are modeled and dressed up. And so that's what I'm asking. But what we have here, more importantly, we have a family-run operation that has followed the rules, except for 2 prior blips going back with Mr. Spencer, his sister, his nieces, nephews, his parents. And to just by rote impose a numerical penalty because it's the time, without considering the underlying facts, without considering what happened in the first one with the death of a loved one, and the son who was actually there grieving when he sold, I just would ask you to revisit that. And I would also ask you most respectfully to revisit the question of imposing fines for duplicitous charges. It's the same conduct under the state code, most respectfully, as it is under our local rules and regulations. So double jeopardy does not apply. That's absolutely correct. This is an administrative proceeding. But just, I would ask you to consider that. It's penalizing the industry twice for the same conduct. And I'd ask you to impose a fine more reasonable than $3,000.
Commissioners, there's a motion pending for a fine of $1,500 for each charge and a guilty finding on both. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Done, Mr. Bittner.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening, and please, Mr. Spencer, be careful. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Our next case is Village Liquors, Shri Nilkanth Inc.
We'll talk about that later.
Ishvarbai Patel, Second Vice President, Satish Patel, Vice President, Kirit Patel, President, Secretary, Treasurer, Sahabir Ali Khan, Clerk, Detective Cepeda, number 1239, Detective Middleton, number 1061, Inspector Jacqueline Alsop. This is a Class A beer, wine, liquor, wine tasting and Sunday license located at 720 Church Street in Baltimore, Maryland, 21225. The license is restricted as follows. As of 6/22/2004, licensees and employees must complete certification in a state-approved alcohol awareness program within 30 days of their hire date. There are two violations. One, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01A, minors, regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 24-740469 by Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Cepeda, number 1239, incident date November 6, 2024. 2, violation of the Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis Article, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individual under the age of 21 years. Regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report 24-740469 by Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Cepeda, number 1239. Incident date November 6, 2024. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please approach the table. Thank you very much. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You may be seated, and Detective Middleton will begin with you as always.
Detective Thomas Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Detective Charles Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Ishwar Patel, 103 West Ordnance Road, Glenburn, New York.
Sir, one more time, please, for the recorder.
103 West Ordnance Road, Glenburn. Ishwar Patel.
Thank you.
Kirit Patel, 23613 Triganic Drive, Clarksburg, Maryland.
Thank you.
Satish Patel, 6808 Laurel, Maryland, 20707.
Thank you.
My name is Sahabir Ali Khan, 610 Sorry Street, Brooklyn Park.
Thank you.
Detective?
Good evening. Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police. This was November 6, 2024. It's approximately 6:30 p.m. Detective Cepeda and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, who we verified through MVA records, to enter the Village Liquors at 720 Church Street in Baltimore, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The CS went into the store, picked out a 6-pack of Miller Lite beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Miller Lite beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverages to Detective Cepeda and myself. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Miller Lite beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Sahibir Ali Khan, date of birth of April 15th, 1984, via his New York identification. Photograph was taken of the clerk and his identification. A photograph was taken of the Miller Lite beer. It was subsequently destroyed. The clerk, Mr. Ali Khan, has advised he did not have any alcohol awareness training. It was the only employee in the store at the time of the sale. He advised he was not on the manager's agreement and had been working there for 6 months. He advised that he lived at the store, and that was the address that he provided to us. He advised the manager, who he identified as Kent Patel, had already left for the day. A copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and that would be our statement of facts.
Do the licensees have any questions for the detectives?
Yeah, he have a, he guys guilty, but he have a awareness certification too, and management contract is also there.
Did you have any questions for the detectives?
No.
Did you have any, did the chairman have any questions for the detectives?
Detectives, and you may have mentioned this in the report, and for that I'll apologize if I didn't pick up on it. But when you went in there, I believe you said he was the only employee in there, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and was he on the management agreement, or did
No.
you check? He was
Yeah,
not.
he was not.
Okay.
He had no
Alcohol
alcohol
awareness?
training.
Okay. That's all the questions I have at this point, sir. Thank you. Or, wait a minute, no, let me take that back. Detective, have you visited this location before?
Yes.
How many times in the best of your recollection, do you think? In, let's say, the last 5 years.
Probably 5 times.
And, well, that's all right. Let's leave it at that. We'll let the record speak for itself. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Commissioners?
No question.
If the licensees have anything in rebuttal or anything to add at this time, it's your turn.
We we already have his certification and
His tip certification?
yeah,
Or alcohol
he's certified.
awareness?
Yeah, alcohol awareness.
Do you have a copy of it with you?
It's on a file right now, not, but yes, it is on a file, and we have a management contract too. Just I make him as a manager.
Yeah, I do see it on the manager's agreement
Right.
now. So he is now, but he wasn't the night of the violation. He was not on the manager's agreement, nor did he have the alcohol awareness training. Is that correct or not?
No, we had alcohol awareness also. Is the last year he did it.
A year ago.
24, yeah.
That-
And management agreement is also there.
So he had both the alcohol awareness training and the management. Okay, very good. That helps us in our decision. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I just wanted to find out why not. Okay, thank you.
Commissioners and Chairman, did you have any questions for the licensees?
No.
I do. There's 3 of you on the license, correct?
Yeah.
All 3. No one was in the store that evening with the clerk, though. Is that also correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That answered my questions. I have no further questions.
Just half an hour before I just left it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I
Bad
was his
timing.
day off on that day, so I was not there that day in the store.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner, no?
No question.
Chairman?
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to say before I make a motion? Okay. Village Liquors has a pretty extensive record that I'm looking at with the liquor board. Some of it goes back to 2008, selling to minors, 2009, selling to minors, but more recently, twice in 2021, you were in front of the board. This would be the third time within that short period of time. And the testimony from the officers and no testimony that would persuade me that it didn't occur the way the officers said. I'm going to make a motion that we find you guilty of both the minors and the sale to a person under 21, both charges, with a fine of $1,500 for each one. It's because it's the third time in less than 5 years. You have to find a way to stop this from happening. We cannot have the sale of alcohol to our minors, to people under the age of 21. So I'm not sure what you three, Mr. Patels, need to do, but you need to do something. So I'm going to make a motion that we find you guilty on both charges, $1,500 for each one, plus administrative costs. Looking for a second.
Second.
Last one is we have like a box from vendor. Is from another store. Is the driver mistake and we did it. That one is last one.
I'm not quite sure. Would you repeat that if perhaps?
Yeah, okay. Last time, the ATCC guy, inspector, last violation is the ATCC guy find out the wrong box in our premises.
So what you're saying is that one of these two dates was not
on
village?
21, only we have a violation, and before is like 2008. You know. That is
We're going to try to check that and see what we can come up with. Bear with us a second, Mr. Patel. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna check the best we can tonight. Computer's down.
Sir, are you talking about the November 22nd, 2021 violation or the August 2nd, 21 violation?
August.
Yeah, if you could go back to it, drag out. Oh, it doesn't.
4.01D, which is that was minors. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick back up where I left off, Mr. Patel. Our records show that both of those were minor violations, sale to minors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion, taking into consideration this is the third time in a, let's say, roughly 5-year period. But if you can show this board anything to the contrary, then we're willing to look at it. But I just, everything we have right now says minors. It doesn't say anything about ATCC or the comptroller or anybody else. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion, and then we can take it from there. The motion is that I find you guilty in both cases with a fine of $1,500 in each case, a total of $3,000 plus cost. Looking for a second.
A second.
All right, thank you very much. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If you find any paperwork or anything to the contrary, please feel free to bring it to our office, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, and have a good evening, and please be careful, because this is the third time. If it happens again in a short period of time, it's going to be a lot worse. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Our next case is...
Now, Chief, before you do, I'm going to request a 10-minute recess. I apologize to everybody, but we need a 10-minute recess. Maybe you do too. So, officers, I think you're excused, correct? Okay. Thank you very much, detectives.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to jump around a little bit more. Please bear with us. We're going to move forward with Kurt's Beach case. Kurt's Beach Limited, John D. Mason, President Treasurer, Bonnie K. Kurtz, Vice President, Secretary, Inspector Buddy Marshall. This license is not restricted. It's an AABWF Special Beer Wine Festival license located at 2070 Kurtz Avenue, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. The dates are October 18th and 19th, 2025 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a Class B beer, wine, liquor, music, and Sunday license. Yep. Sorry, I thought there was more there. Sir, if you could raise your right hand for me. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, sir. You may be seated, and if you could state your name and address for the record.
I'm John Mason, 2017 Old Home Avenue, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mason, I turn the floor over to you.
Well, once again, we're in our 10th year of Wine Festival, wine and music and all that good stuff festival. We have some big plans for our 10th anniversary, so we appreciate the body looking at that and considering us for this license.
Mr. Mason, just very briefly, the purpose of the license is for a fundraiser, is that correct?
No. Well, it is a fundraiser. Our benefactor is the Tate Center in Glen Burnie, but this festival license allows us to, for a wine festival, allows participants to buy bottles of wine, because otherwise our license doesn't allow that. So it just simply allows them to buy wine and to consume it on the property.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of Mr. Mason?
Year 10. Thank you.
Along with other licensees who have done the same.
It's our
No
92nd year of business this year.
Wow.
We're very proud of that.
Yep. No further questions, sir.
Commissioners?
No question.
Okay, Mr. Mason, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and grant the special license for October 18th and 19th. Put that in the form of motion. Looking for a second. Thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good evening. Sorry you had to wait so long.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Okay, our next case is Bla's Supermarket and Restaurant. Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please come forward to the table, remain standing, and raise your right hand.
I do.
I do.
Oscar Blas. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Jim Ford, Chief Inspector, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. Inspector Barnes.
Earl Barnes, Inspector, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board.
Richard Bittner, B-I-T-T-N-E-R, on behalf of Eduardo Blas and licensee.
Oscar Blas, 199 Lisa Lane, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21060.
Eduardo Blas, 14 Ingleno, Glen Burnie, 21060.
Sir, could you please restate your address? I'm sorry.
14 Ingleno, City, Glen Burnie, 21060.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if the board please, this will be an admission.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Inspector?
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. I will read my report from that date. The report's dated 10/31/24. On October 25th, 24, I visited the above reference establishment, Blas Supermarket. When I was there, I discovered a refrigeration unit located on the north side of the premise. It's actually attached to the building with an entrance on the inside and outside. There are photos attached to the report. Several cases of beer were located inside the storage container. The board-approved manager on duty, Mr. Oscar Blas, was unable to produce a permit for the installed storage container, which has since been emptied out of alcohol. As a result of the findings, I asked Inspector Barnes to issue violation notice 1512 on October 30th as follows: 4.17 storage, unauthorized, unpermitted storage of alcoholic beverages on the premises, and 4.18 alterations, unauthorized installation, alteration on the licensed premises. And that ends the report. Mr. Hurdle, I would like to make a motion to enter the report and the photos into the record, please.
So entered.
Thank you.
Mr. Bittner?
No objections to the report.
Mr. Bittner, did the chairman have any questions for the chief?
Chief, you say you directed Inspector Barnes out to the location?
I did.
All right.
To issue the violation.
Okay. And is there a report attached to the violation or just the violation notice itself?
Just the violation notice itself.
Okay. That's, just wanted to make sure. All right. Were you personally aware, Chief, of this container?
No,
When were you first made aware of it?
during my visit.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Commissioners? Mr. Bittner?
Thank you. This matter with the outside storage refrigerating unit is simply one, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that got away from the Blas family. They didn't request a permit. That's pending. They have now filed for a permit. There have been, as the board's, I think, aware, extensive renovations that have been going to this premises beginning back in 2019, when I think two boards before you granted Mr. Blas permission to move the supermarket to the basement and expand the bar. And he's been going for the last 5 years through the process. He got hung up by COVID. He's had to put a new water main in for the sprinkler system that's now required. All of that was just approved a couple weeks ago, and we've sent that on to you. And this was part of it, and Oscar Blas, the son, who's the active manager, tells me it just simply got away from him. Immediately when the chief notified us, we began the process to apply for the permits. We stopped using the refrigerator. There's nothing in there. There's nothing stored in there. It was, I submit most respectfully, an honest error, nothing intentional, no harm to the public. These operators, this family, are very good, strong operators. They have had no sales to minors. They've had no issues with the operation since they took over in 2013, except for, the board may recall, there was, during COVID, Mr. Blas held a birthday party in his own restaurant, and he got a violation. But other than that, I believe the record reflects that he's been a proper operator, a good member of the community, actively involved in the community, provides good food and services to his clientele, and I would ask the board to consider a reprimand in the court costs.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Of course, permission needs to be requested both from the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board for any improvements that you make on the property, and this is addressed to both Mr. Blas, as Mr. Bittner is aware of it. And I believe you've been told that before in previous incidents. You also need to request in writing a permit or to get a permit from the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, ATCC, used to be the Comptroller's Office. I believe the process is you get a written letter of permission from us, and then ATCC will then investigate the situation and issue you a permit. Have you applied for either of those, either a letter to the Liquor Board or to the ATCC, or Alcohol, Tobacco, Cannabis Commission?
We're waiting for the approval. We haven't done that.
So you requested it? You're waiting for our approval or ATCC, Mr. Bittner?
We're waiting for the building permit approval. They're not using the refrigerator for any purpose. It's not. After they were told they couldn't use the refrigerator for refrigeration, it's my understanding they stored a couple cases of beer in there. When they were advised they couldn't do that, they immediately removed it. It's shut off. It's vacant. They're not using it. It's been mothballed, if you would, until first the county approves the permit and gives them permission, and then we've requested the alteration from you. Our anticipation is once it's approved for use, we'll request the storage. But we're not using it at all because we don't have permission to use it.
Okay, thank you. Where do you want to go for? Okay, I don't have any more questions for the chief or the inspector. I would like to try to clarify a few things, Mr. Bittner, if I may. And I apologize. Could either one of Mr. Blas's explain or let me know when this container was placed on the property?
Tiene como un año y medio más o menos.
About 1.5 years.
I'm sorry?
1.5 years.
It's been there for 1.5 years?
Mm-hmm. About, more or less.
If I may, it's my understanding it was all part of the work that's been ongoing with the renovations. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you're familiar with this establishment. And you know how on the first floor it was half a supermarket, half a restaurant. Board gave us permission to relocate. So my understanding from the family is that refrigeration, that was all just part of what they were doing. It was almost like a force majeure. And so it's been open. They haven't tried to hide it. It wasn't anything that they were trying to get over. There's literally significant money and time been invested by the family to turn the building that they own into a first-class bodega and restaurant. And it is. I eat there myself.
You're right, Mr. Bittner. I am very familiar with the Blases as well as the establishment. I'm also very familiar with the fact that they had a tent there that they didn't get a permit for, and they had a large wooden-built pavilion out front that they didn't get a permit for, and in both cases, they were required to take them down.
If I may, during COVID, that was... Yes, and... No violations.
No, and I think we worked pretty well together to try to get that corrected, and with the hopes of never having to revisit these type of things again, and here we are. So right now, the status with the water, I believe Mr. Blas informed me some time ago that it was a very costly process of getting the water brought across, I think it's underneath Crane Highway, is that correct? So that it could supply enough pressure for the sprinkler system. And do you have that permit, or has that work been completed or started?
Yeah, we do.
That permit was approved. We sent that on to the chief. That was approved just, I believe, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Right before Christmas.
Right before Christmas.
It takes a while to get permission for something like that, I know, I understand. I noticed looking at the photos of the container that it's painted and along the same lines of the paint that's on the building. In other words, it looks good. That's not what the point I'm making. I also noticed in the photos that there is a door. Is it from within the building directly into the storage area? Is that correct too?
Yes.
Okay. And these are the permits that are being applied for retroactive, I would imagine?
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct. They've been applied for it. Again, we've submitted that.
Okay, and it's my understanding that the storage area was being used for something, but that stopped once it was brought to your attention that they could not do it. The
Correct.
storing of alcohol, beer particularly. Okay. Do we know what kind of open permits there are or applications for permits for anything going on in the building besides the container or storage area?
I'll confirm, in my understanding, the only pending permit is the refrigerator.
Correct. Yes, and the sprinkler permit too.
Yeah.
But that was already approved, so I don't. We're just waiting on the water.
Yeah, they won't approve that until it's hooked up and tested and so forth. I understand.
But right now we're getting quotes from companies that will do the work. Yeah. So that should start soon in the next few months.
Que ya me ofrecieron algunos cuartos.
Oh, we
No,
already
que-
got a few quotes from contractors. Yeah, we're looking into that right now.
Okay, I do have some concerns, which I'll bring out in a few minutes. But right now, I have no further questions. Either of the commissioners? No questions? No questions. Mr. Bittner, do you want to be heard before I make a motion?
No, thank you. I'll submit on my comments. As said, in terms of infractions, except for that birthday party, and initially when they opened in 2013, there haven't been any. Operators who've worked with the board. I'd ask the board to consider that and impose a reprimand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. December 31st of 2020, I believe there was a possible infraction, and correct me if I'm wrong, that dealt with prohibited hours.
I believe that was the birthday party.
Okay. All right, so that was the same thing. That was the birthday party. All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Here's where I'm going to go with this, and hopefully we can make this work for you and for the liquor board. I'm going to make a motion, but before I do, I want to explain how I feel about this, and hopefully you'll understand. It's not a good thing to ask forgiveness before asking permission. And you seem to have done that over and over and over. But with that being said, and the fact that there are no other violations or things that the board would be, concerned about, what I'm going to do is you didn't have the permits you were required to have to make the alterations. You didn't ask permission from the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, which you should have. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a motion to give you fines in both cases, but I'm also going to make it part of the motion that you correspond with or talk to our administration as to exactly what the status is on anything that's going on in that property when it comes to permits and things like that. We need to be aware of it. Finding out about it after the fact or when you get caught is not acceptable. And I'm sure you wouldn't want your children to get away with things until you catch them. You'd rather, have an idea of what's going on first so that you can prevent it from happening. And that's the same thing here. So my motion is guilty for both violations, the storage and the alterations, $500 for each one of those, a total of $1,000 plus cost. And again, I'm also making part of this that you be required to keep the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board administration informed as to the progress of these ongoing applications as well as any new ones. And remember, you do need to get permission before you do anything as long as you have a liquor license. Okay, that's my motion. I'm looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So be it. Thank you both
Thank you very much. Have a
Please,
good rest
Mr.
of
Thank you.
Blas, be careful.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Our next case is La Fogata, Bellows Companies LLC, Ricardo Alvarado Jr. member, Ricardo Serrano managing member, Sean Hicks member, Chief Inspector Jim Ford, Inspector Vin Pelletier. This is a Class H beer, wine, liquor, and Sunday license located at 3029 Solomon's Island Road, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037. The license is not restricted. There are 4 violations. 1, violations of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.16, unauthorized conduct regarding violation notice 1286 by Chief Inspector Jim Ford, incident date October 28th, 2024. 2, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.18, alterations regarding violation notice number 1286 by Chief Inspector Jim Ford, incident date October 28th, 2024. 3, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.01D, ownership and operation regarding Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, violation notice number 1285 by Chief Inspector Jim Ford, incident dated October 28th, 2024. 4, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.13, trade names regarding Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, violation notice number 1286 by Chief Inspector Jim Ford, incident dated October 28th, 2024. Anybody wishing to testify for or against, please approach and remain standing if you would, and raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the... Thank you.
I declare and affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony about to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Chief Inspector Jim Ford, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board.
Sean Hicks, 584 Melissa Court, Arnold, Maryland, 21012.
Ricardo Bello, 421 Merriman Road, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Ricardo Junior Bello Alvarado, 2987 Harold Court, apartment 3A, 21061.
Thank you very much. That would be me. This report is dated October 30th, 24 for activity between the 28th and the 30th of October of 24. On October 28th, 2024, I arrived at La Fogata at approximately 1:30 p.m. Upon entering the parking lot, I noted that new signage had been physically installed and that this signage bore the trade name of El Cabrito Mexican Grill. Additionally, there were now open flags with El Cabrito Mexican Grill branding. Please see the attached photos. Then, upon entering the establishment, I noted that the new dining room sets were branded as El Cabrito. There was no signage on premises of the actual licensed trade name La Fogata. In speaking with licensee Sean Hicks over the phone while I was on the site, I directed him to either cover up all signs of El Cabrito on the building and properly identify the trade name as La Fogata, or to remove or safely secure all alcohol on the premises. Mr. Hicks indicated that they would do the latter by opening of business the following day. The alcohol was confirmed as secured by Liquor Board Inspector Vin Pelletier on the evening of October 29th, 2024. As a result of these findings, violation number 1286 was issued to La Fogata on 10/31 as follows. 3.13 trade names. I have already read these into the record, so I will go ahead and skip these. And that would, at this time, end my report. And I'd like to make a motion to enter the report and the photos into the record. Mr. Hurdle?
So entered.
Thank you.
Chairman, do you have any questions of the Chief Inspector?
Chief Inspector, the photographs that are attached to your report, what day were they taken? Were they taken the day of the report?
No, they were taken the day of they were taken on the 28th.
Okay, yes. First of the 2 activity days. All right, did you or any other inspector go back to check and see if they in fact complied? Mr. Hicks covered the signs or anything else?
Yes, so Mr. Hicks had agreed to remove all alcohol from the premises based on the choices I gave him, which I did ask Inspector Pelletier to confirm, which he did.
Okay, so you took the latter of the 2 then, which is?
Yes, sir.
Which is your choice, and you were given that choice.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if that has been since resolved or anything is done? Is the alcohol still stored, or is it back in business again?
No, as far as I know of, the alcohol is not there, but to the best of my knowledge, there has not been a recent inspection. I would have to bring Inspector Pelletier up and swear him in and ask him if that has happened. If we could do that, Inspector Pelletier, if he wouldn't mind coming up and answering that question. I can say that I did not direct him to check it recently.
Okay, but you'll have to swear him in.
Yeah, I just want to confirm with him. Inspector Pelletier, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Well, the questions was really referring, I was asking you, but Inspector, have you been back since the original date of inspections, or when was the
Yes.
last time you were back?
I believe I was back in December, and the alcohol is still not present at all. It's secured in the back room where it was originally.
Good, very good. All right, I have no further questions.
Commissioners? The licensees have any questions of either inspector?
No.
At this time, it's the licensee's chance to offer testimony, rebuttal testimony.
I just want to say I appreciate you guys working with us, and you guys have been very informative and supportive. As you guys know, we're going through a transfer. Our application finally submitted. Everything took longer than we thought. We shouldn't have changed it. They knew. I should have been on top of them. That's my fault, you know. So, but I appreciate you guys, and we're looking forward to not being back here in front of you guys again. Besides, you know.
Chairman, do you have any questions?
Just a few. So at present, Mr. Hicks, to your knowledge, there's no alcohol being served?
Yes, sir. I'm positive. As I said, we anticipated the transfer happening in sooner. It took longer than we thought. That's when this all occurred because we weren't on top of it. And when he gave us the option, because I didn't know how long it was going to take, I told them that it would be better to just remove it until we got all, you know, our things in order, and then we could come in front of you guys and worry about the transfer then. I was worried that, you know, if we just change the name, we're going to continue to have issues. I think new owners were just excited for the new restaurant and got, you know, jumped the gun a little bit, and, you know, so.
Jumping the gun, it can get you in trouble.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, I referred to what I told the previous case. Sometimes it's Well, it's always better to ask permission than forgiveness because it's going to get you in trouble.
Yes, sir.
Most, if not all the time. Is the restaurant open at present for food service and so forth?
Correct. Since the dates that he mentioned, we've been open just for food only. The alcohol's been securely locked in the back and will not be back out until hopefully the end of the month when you guys approve our transfer, if that happens. Hopefully.
Okay. So these, now correct me if I'm wrong, but are you admitting to the fact that everything that the chief said was factual as far as
Yes, 100%.
everything observed? Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty there.
Commissioners?
Okay. Mr. Hicks, I do appreciate your honesty and but this place does have a little bit of a track record that's doesn't necessarily sit favorable with the board, or at least not, that's in my opinion, as just a member of the board. But I also believe that things can change. And I'd like to believe that this location is going to do just that. Hopefully under new management or new ownership, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And are the three officers sitting here in front of us, including yourself, are you going to be part of the new ownership?
I will be the only one
The
that
only
is a
one.
part of it.
Okay, and Mr. Alvarado and Mr. Serrano will not be part of that?
Correct. They haven't been involved with the restaurant in some time. Just, like I said, it's been taking a while to officially get all the paperwork submitted and get everything done. But moving forward, it'll just be myself.
Okay, well then, I'm going to direct a lot of this to you.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's
Okay.
on me, not on them.
I don't have any further questions for the three of you. Thank you for coming in. I do appreciate it. Before I make a motion, is there anything else or any commissioners have as far as questions? Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to make a motion. First of all, I think you are in agreement that everything that the chief said in his report is factual and actual. And with that being said, I'm going to find you guilty of all four of the charges. And I'm going to fine you $500 in each one of those cases for a total of $2,000. I hate to hit you with an additional expense trying to open a place, but I think it's really, really important that we set the ground rules ahead of time.
I agree. I have one question, though. One of those, I believe we prepaid and waived. So it should only be 3, or am I wrong?
Well, you could be right. We'll check.
Okay. It hasn't been paid yet? Yeah. Okay, well, carry on. I'm sorry. Okay.
But
Chief just saved you $400.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. The one charge would have been a $100 fine, so I'm going to stick to the $500 fine on 3 of them, and then the fourth one will be $100, $1,600 total.
Yes, sir.
All right, and Mr. Hicks, I really, really hope this works out.
I appreciate the support.
Okay, so anyway, that's a form of a motion. I'm looking for a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you so much. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Good luck, Mr. Hicks. Okay, our next case is Fodina LLC. Frank Doe, Managing Member. Inspector Jim Kirzoglu. This is to remove a this license is restricted, 11/14/2023, entertainment restricted to multiple TVs only. This is for the removal of a restriction located at 4141-24143 Mountain Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122, Class H beer, wine, liquor, entertainment, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against has approached, I assume. Please raise your right hands, and Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated, and if you could, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Frank Du. My address is 14423 Fairdale Road, Silver Spring, Maryland, 20905.
Thank you very much.
And then, good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Christopher DiCarlo here, appearing on behalf of the licensee in this matter. And may I have a seat?
Yes, please, of course.
If I may proffer, Mr. Chair, this is what I believe a very straightforward application before the Commission seeking an entertainment permit for karaoke specifically is what my client is looking for. Mr. Doe and Fodino was approved for a Class H license last year. This board deemed it appropriate to grant that and give that privilege to my client. During that time, he has not had any violations or any issues. He has a very good relationship, I believe, with Chief Inspector Ford and the other inspectors. They always come in and have always passed everything. As was indicated and as would be testified to by my client, the premises is about 2,500 square feet. As is shown on the site plan that was submitted with the application, it is located in the interior of the Lakeshore Plaza Shopping Center. It is over 800 feet from the closest residentially zoned property. So any issue with noise or disturbance to a residential home would, is slim to none with this. In addition, right now, the license does have approval for televisions, which he does have in there. This karaoke would be hooked into an existing television. The sound will be coming through the existing sound system in the store. There's no kind of additional amplification or anything coming in. He still plans to maintain this as a family-oriented restaurant with food sales exceeding the alcohol sales. There'd be no change there. This is really just a supplemental amenity that he's seeking to provide, really at the request of many of his existing customers that have asked to have this for when they come in for certain kind of gatherings and things like that. Mr. Doe would also testify that the application that he provided was true and correct and is still true and correct to this day. Happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, or my client's also happy to testify as well and answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. This looks fairly cut and dry. I'm a little bit familiar with the establishment. The table locations that are highlighted as the entertainment area, there appears to be, I don't know, a dozen tables there or less. Are they going to remain
Yes, sir.
there?
Yes, they will be there.
So if you have any entertainment in that area, you're not going to be moving the tables for a dance floor or anything of that nature?
No, we're not.
Okay, very good. I have no further questions. That's the only thing I needed to answer.
Commissioners?
Okay. Anything else, Mr. DiCarlo, you'd like to say before?
That'd be all, Mr. Chair. Thank you. We'd
You're
submit.
welcome. Thank you. Well presented. I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and remove the restriction the way it's written as is, and you're allowed your full entertainment. I would like to add a word of caution, right? What we give, we can take away. So please be careful.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. My motion is to go ahead and accept the request to remove the restriction. Looking for a second. Thank you, Commissioner. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Sorry you had to wait so long to get that done.
No worries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next case is Doc and Annie's Liquor, SRP Investment LLC, Harshiel.
Wait, Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please approach the table, remain standing, and raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated, and if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Arshil Patel, 708 Calvin Court, Severn, Maryland, 21144.
Thank you.
And good evening, Chief Inspector Ford, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Brian Lyman, L-Y-M-A-N, on behalf of the applicant before the board tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Lyman?
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. We're here for a transfer on Doc and Annie's license. And if I may say so, thankfully, I'm here for the transfer on Doc and Annie's license. I've been here for the existing licensee too many times, and the board is well aware of the history of this license, as is my other client, Mr. Patel, who's seated to my left. I would submit to the board that he is a fit and proper applicant. He has seen firsthand more of these meetings, I dare say, than many applicants who appear before the board before their transfer hearing. He's been attended to the concerns of the board, Mr. Bandari's struggles and staffing issues notwithstanding. He doesn't plan any changes to the operation of the establishment as far as the business model, the hours of operation, the license class, the amenities that he offers to customers. He is planning on being present at the store on a regular basis to make sure that we don't end up with any underage service violations. That has been historically a problem, as I said, for my other client. And Mr. Patel has taken note of that and understands what the board's policies and procedures are. I have emailed him the board's rules in preparation for each of the various hearings that we have been getting ready for. And he, I believe, is prepared if the board wants to quiz him on any of the rules and regulations. But nevertheless, the representations made in his application are true and correct. They remain true and correct as of today. And I would proffer to the board that he is a fit and proper person to take over as licensee at Doc and Annie's. He is the sole member of SRP Investment LLC. He will be investing his own savings into this business and is committed to making some capital improvements and adjustments to the amenities that he makes available. Obviously, we're hoping to get this deal to a closing before the renewal season is upon us, and I'm more than happy to either myself respond to any questions the board may have about hours of operation, or have Mr. Patel answer those questions for you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Lyman.
Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Just a few questions. Number one, sir, do you have any other financial interest in any other alcohol establishment in this state?
I do not. Currently a software engineer. I'm currently a software engineer, which I'm going to be quitting to focus into this.
All right, very good. Thank you. Are you planning on making any changes to the hours or direction of service or any physical changes to the establishment?
I am not.
Okay, very good. I, for one, would welcome a change in something at that location, so I have no further questions, Speaker. So, commissioners? Well, Mr. Lyman, this is probably one of your quickest ones.
I don't try to unnecessarily take up the board's time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. With everything being said, I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and accept the transfer as is. Looking for a second.
I second the motion.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please don't make me sorry. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman.
Have a good evening.
Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we're almost there. We're getting there. Next to last case is La Fountain Blue. La Fountain Blue, Inc., Sergio Meza, President, Juan C. Meza, Vice President, Inspector Earl Barnes. This is for a new license located at 7410 to 7414 Ritchie Highway, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061, for a Class H beer, wine, liquor, music, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please approach the table, remain standing, and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. And Mr. Gardner, if we could start with you, state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Thank you, Chief Inspector. My name is John Gardner. On behalf of the applicants, the address is 7310 Ritchie Highway, Suite 412 in Glen Burnie, 21061.
My name is Sergio Mesa. My address is 8022 Mansion House Crossing, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
My name is Juan Mesa, and my address is
506 Sunset North, Pasadena, 21122.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. The first request I would have is, I sent in an exhibit list, exhibits 1 through 26 on January 2nd, I believe it was. And then yesterday, I sent additional late received letters of support from Cindy and Alan Jones, and also the fire marshal capacity signs for the 5 sub ballrooms that are there, the trader and the trader's license. And I also submitted a memorandum on the criteria. I don't think that's evidence, but I would ask for the formal admission into the record of everything else except the criteria memo.
So admitted.
All right, thank you. I will ask some questions of Mr. Sergio Mesa with the board's permission. Mr. Mesa, are you who is the owner of the property where the Lafante Blue is located?
It's Mesa Holdings, which we both are owners.
Okay, you meaning Juan?
Juan and, yeah, my brother.
Okay, so you are members, the managing members.
Yes.
Okay, and you've owned that since 2021, that's when you acquired it?
Yes.
All right, and how long have you been in the restaurant business?
I started working, I think it was 2003.
2003, all right, and continuously since then?
Yes.
All right, and this application includes music in the ballroom, in the ballrooms only?
Correct.
All right. Would you tell the board what you believe the Lafante Blue offers to the public?
Well, La Fontainebleau is going to be a continuation of what it was before, which is public events and like parties, weddings, and that type of events.
All right. In the Glen Burnie, central Glen Burnie area, is there any other facility that can offer all the events that your facility would?
I believe there is some around there.
Are they close by? Let me ask it a different way. Do you consider this facility unique?
Well, it's a little bit different because of the size of the premises. The probably is the only one with that capacity around there.
All right. And for the record, the fire marshal capacity has a capacity of about 760 seating and about 1,600 for meetings. Now, what the type of events you would have there include what?
What do you mean? Like
weddings? Would you have
yeah,
weddings?
it would be weddings.
Would you have community events?
Community events.
Political events?
Political events if they're requested. Yes.
Similar type events to what Lafante Blue had before?
Exactly, yes.
All right. And would you have proms for high school seniors, for example?
If they're requested, yes. I believe that was used for that kind of purpose.
All right. Now, if you did, do you have a plan to ensure that minors would be prevented or prohibited from having alcohol? What would you do with the alcohol if you had a senior prom there?
Well, it depends on the type of event. If it's going to be like minors only, like a prom, it won't be alcohol. All the alcohol will be stored in a proper place.
It would be stored elsewhere?
Exactly.
Outside the ballrooms?
The ballrooms are not going to have alcohol at all the times, only when it is an event going on.
Only when there is an event that would serve alcohol?
Yes.
Permit service of alcohol?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And, all right, is it fair to say that you're trying to present a new face to a business that's been existing for over 5 decades?
Yes, well, that's the idea that we have.
And the application includes for a restaurant. Is the restaurant open yet?
No, not yet.
All right. And what's the time frame for that to be opened?
I would say it's 8 to 10 months away.
All right. And when the restaurant opens, would it have the same kitchen or a different kitchen than what the ballrooms would be serviced?
Part of the kitchen is shared with the hall.
With the ballrooms?
With the ballrooms, yes.
All right. And is that the way it was prior to your acquisition?
Correct.
All right, and the restaurant, do you know yet what type of cuisine you would offer in the restaurant when it opens?
It's gonna be a Mexican restaurant.
All right. Now, there's parking. Exhibit 18 is a reciprocal agreement for parking with the state property that's next door to you, is that right?
Where the court is, yes.
Where the district court is?
Yes.
Okay, and was there an agreement like that before the one you entered into in 2022?
I believe it was, yes.
All right, but you entered into a new one?
Yes.
And that entailed new negotiations with the state?
I think they do it every 3 years.
Okay, and you signed on, okay.
Yes.
All right. For the record, exhibit the plans that were submitted as part of the original application, Mr. Chairman, do indicate 167 spaces on the LaFonte Blue property and another 141 on the state property. And the idea is to have the state use it during the weekdays when the LaFonte Blue would not be using it. And otherwise, there's sort of an easement or an easement for the LaFonte Blues patrons to use it during those off hours when the state would not be using it.
Mhm.
And of course on weekends as well. Now, do you have any managers for which a management agreement would need to be filed with the liquor board yet?
No, we're not in a full operation yet.
All right.
But yeah, we will have some management agreements too.
All right, but that's something that's still in the works?
Yes.
All right. And you will file the management agreements once you do hire those people?
Yes.
For the moment, I would stand down if the board has any further questions of Mr. Mason.
Chairman, any questions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Sir?
First of all, I understand the name has changed ever so slightly. Instead of La Fontaine, it's now La Fountain.
It's the American version as
understood.
opposed to the French.
I don't speak French anyway, so I'm okay with that. When the restaurant opens in 8 to 10 months, Mr. Meza, you're going to be keeping the same name for the entire area underneath the roof of that building?
Well, it was a confusion. We thought we were able to keep to have two names like what it was before, but that's what we thought. But we're trying to keep the signage, at least for the restaurant, different than La Fontaine Bleu, if that was possible. But I don't know if it's going to be, that's going to be a problem with the liquor board.
If I may add, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I think that's something
Please.
that's been under some discussion with Mr. Aronson and myself. It is true, and I've seen the previous license, which did have a different trade name for the restaurant and a trade name for the ballroom facility, as it were. That is the history of it. I think the question now is whether the board's policy would be the same or not, and that's an open question at this point, as I understand it.
And that question wouldn't have to be resolved until they're ready to open the restaurant? Is that
I
my
don't know, it
understanding?
would, no, it wouldn't. The application right now is in the name of La Fontaine Bleu for the restaurant and for the ballroom, but it is a concern and an issue
Sure.
that we would like to raise and have discussions with the board about at the proper time.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem, having a discussion with the board.
And, well, obviously, it's the board's decision that will make the
Understood.
difference in answering
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure it was part of the record tonight that, in fact, the entire building will be known as La Fountain Bleu until such time as there's a change made. And I do understand why you would probably want to change the name, but that's to be foreseen, okay? And any decision made tonight will be based on La Fountain Bleu for the entire building and property.
Understood, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I do double duty.
I've been called a lot of things, John, but
hope that's what
Mr. Gardner, we're now going to have to call him that in the office. Thank you very
No, no.
much.
I'm sorry.
no, don't apologize. It was fine. That's all right.
And what do you anticipate, what are your plans are for community outreach once the ballroom is up and running and the restaurant is up and running?
Well, I'm gonna base it like my experience right now in the restaurant. I don't have it. I never.
This is the first time for a ballroom, I understand, but what's your experience been?
I mean, like for the community, which is like donations and stuff like that we could do. What we've done in the past is a lot of nonprofit organizations come and ask for like certificates, or sometimes like teachers ask for like chips and salsa and like some type of food. We've done that on the past.
All right, would you plan to do that in the future?
If it's requested,
And
yes.
have there been times in your previous businesses where schools or school-age children have been on your property for some particular activity?
Yes. When it's closed, it hasn't been like lately. 3 years, I think 3 or 4 years ago was the last time. Always when we were close to like Cinco de Mayo, we have schools drop children in their buses. We make like a special time and a special menu for them to.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what the only thing we've done in the past.
That's all the questions I have of Sergio Mesa. I don't have any for Juan Mesa, that's his brother, but I would just proffer that Juan Mason is, they've been partners in others' businesses, and Juan is much more the operation of the kitchen and behind the scenes, and Sergio is the one that handles the more public issues, for lack of a better way to put it. That's all the testimony I have. I do have some comments at the end, whenever the board thinks it's appropriate.
Okay, and I do have a few more questions that I'd like to put forward and get answers to.
Sure.
Just for clarity's sake more than anything. The ballrooms, if your restaurant is going to be more oriented towards, Hispanic food, Mexican food, is that what you also foresee happening over in the ballroom, or is that going to be?
No, that's why we wanted to keep the name of La Fontainebleau, because
Sure.
that we don't want people to think that it's only for one specific ethnicity. So that's why we kept the same name for. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but that's why we kept that name. So to leave it open for
Right,
different menus.
That does make sense, and I do appreciate that, and I asked that question because I know Mi Pueblo is literally a half a block away, and I believe Mr. Mesa, Juan Mesa, has been handling that business and doing a super fantastic job at that. Is your intention to close that up when you open the new restaurant in the La Fontainebleau building?
Yes, the intention is to move that menu or that restaurant to where La Fontainebleau space is, and that was the intention that we have. Yes.
I would submit, I think it's possible that there may be an application to change the existing Mi Pueblo to a totally different type of cuisine at the same time. But that is something that is very tentative at this point.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure if it would be a transfer of the license from Mi Pueblo. I
That
don't
was
think
my
you
next
could.
question, right.
So what do we do with that license, whether it's a sale to another business or what? or whether it would be a reorganization with a new menu and new cuisine at the old location is yet to be determined.
I'm sorry, the idea is to have a totally different, more like a seafood menu, totally different than what we have, because we have still 6 or 7 years of lease on the other one, so.
No, I understand that's, and if you're as successful with the seafood as you have been with the present restaurant, I'm sure you'll do fine.
Okay.
So I can almost foresee that there'll be some changes in the future with perhaps the name or the restaurant portion of La Fontainebleau. But for tonight, we're looking at this and we're addressing the issue that this particular item is going to be for the entire building and the parking lot under the name of La Fontainebleau.
Understood.
Okay. I have no further questions. Well, no, I do. I apologize. Do you have, either of you have any financial interest in other establishments in the state of Maryland that sell alcohol?
I do.
Okay.
I have a financial interest in a restaurant called Los Portales.
Okay, yeah.
He's a 25%.
25% owner, yes.
Mr. Meza?
No, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Not in this Carroll County. I have financial.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a question. We just like to make it part of the record so that we understand. Mr.
Yeah,
Juan Mesa?
I know how important Los Portales, but Los Azteca in the same place. ¿Cómo se llama?
Carroll County.
Carroll County.
Yes.
I have a part of that.
Okay, very good. And thank you for the record. Like I say, that was, I have no further questions at this time.
Commissioners?
Anything else, Mr. Gardner?
Well, I would just submit, Mr. Chairman, that this is an application for a new license. And the only reason it is an application for a new license is because the previous licensee, whose license expired at the end of April of 2024, declined to participate or cooperate in the renewal. Hence, we had to file a new application. We're trying to keep a continuation, as Mr. Mesa testified. That's just the way it had to happen. So we are, and I would respectfully ask for the board's approval of this new license under the terms that the board has described.
Okay, and I do understand that you're not applying for any outdoor service.
That is correct.
At this time?
That is correct. At this time, we are not. That is something, another application. The construction and renovations on that, I don't think the permits have even been applied for yet.
There are permits, but
the work is not happening.
No.
So that's months away. I think in my memo and elsewhere, we anticipated sometime in spring of 25 for that. So there are a number of plates that are going to continue to spin in 2025 as we go into the year.
Okay, you've answered all my questions, and thank you all for that. I have no further questions for anybody? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we do accept this new license. And I'm doing that because there was a license at that location, and it was for basically the same kind of business at the same kind of location, affecting, generally speaking, the same clientele. So I don't see a problem with this, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we accept this license as applied for. Looking for a second. Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. And
Thank
I
you
wish
very
you a
much.
lot of luck, and I'm sure if you do as good there as you do at your other businesses, you'll be fine. And we appreciate the way you handle your alcohol service at those other locations.
Thank you.
Good night.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you very
board's
much.
comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Gardner.
all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, last but certainly not least, we've made it. Lifetime Annapolis, LTF Maryland Liquor LLC, Stuart McFarland, President, Caitlin Eichste, Member, Facility Ops Leader. Spencer Merrill, Member, Inspector Joe McKernan. This is for a new license located at 200 Harker Place, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401, for Class D on sale only, beer, wine, liquor, entertainment, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please approach, remain standing, and raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You may be seated, and if you could, state your name and address for the record.
Spencer Merrill, 1911 Westbridge Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you.
Caitlin Eichste, 609 Admiral Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you very much.
I'll turn the floor over to the applicants.
We're excited for the opportunity to possibly have a liquor license in Arundel County.
Okay.
I was not prepped for anything else. I guess
Well, maybe we can help you along a little bit, but feel free to add anything that you feel is pertinent in any way, shape, or form. There's also a Stuart McFarland, is that right? He was excused, but is he still going to be on the license?
correct.
Okay. Who is going to be the managing party or parties, or is it going to be a shared situation? Or
It's going to be shared between the two of us at the location.
Okay. Very good. Do either of you have any other financial interest in any other establishment that sells alcohol in the state of Maryland?
No.
Very good. Do you know offhand if Mr. McFarland does?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Mr. Aronson, do we have any record of? Okay. Well, but we can still ask him of that off the record, and that's it, and that's fine. Okay, thank you very much for that. Can you give us a little information on what you plan on doing within the confines of the physical structure? Hours, food, alcohol? What's the idea that you want to put forth and ask for an approval on a Class D license?
So the idea is to partner with the pickleball community. So we did an expansion recently that opened up October 2024. And we have a lounge area outside of right next to our 11 pickleball courts. And we're hoping to build a stronger community through mixers and different events. The hours of operation of the club are 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., but we will not be selling alcohol during those hours. We will probably restrict the hours to, I would say, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. based on the day of the week. We haven't finalized those hours yet, but they would not be for sale at all times that we are open. So the main thing was just to have people be at Lifetime, build community, have some fun tournaments, mixers. We're already running some successful pickleball tournaments, but of course without alcohol. So, yeah.
Okay. So what are the hours that you think you will be selling alcohol?
Right now I'm looking at the hours at 12 p.m. to 8 p.m.
12 to 8?
Yep.
Do you have any experience in running how about any experience in any form of running an establishment that sells alcohol?
I do not know.
And you, ma'am, no? Neither of you? You're not aware of whether Mr. McFarland does or not? Okay. There are several things that you're going to need to be educated in that are extremely important, and you may have heard some of that tonight. Number one, this board, I can speak for because I'm part of it, doesn't take lightly the selling of alcohol to a minor. And we don't excuse people going, oops, that was my mistake, sorry about that. It doesn't work that way, not when it comes to something as serious as selling alcohol to a minor. We also require that at least one licensee, so there's 3 of you on the license, be there at all times that you're open for business. Now, there is an exception to that, and that is if one of the 3 of you cannot be there, you can have a manager whose name appears on a document that we would give to you called a management agreement. And that simply says that you, the licensees, agree to allow that manager to act on your behalf. Now, that puts you at a little bit of jeopardy perhaps as far as that goes, so I'd be very careful whose name I put on that. But it is important that you have a management agreement, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most of us here. And every one of those inspectors out there will tell you that they question each and all the licensees that they have when they go in to see if, in fact, the licensee's there, and if they're not, is there a person who's on the manager's agreement issued by the liquor board with their name on it. So you really need to become educated, and this administration, this board can help you with that. We're not attorneys, so we can't advise you as to the law, but we can help you along. So if you have any questions, I'm sure that the staff at our board will help you. I am curious as to Mr. McFarland's experience, because that could be a big help to you. And if he has none, or similar to yours, very limited or little when it comes to alcohol, it's going to really put a stress on you. And unfortunately, the excuse of, oh, well, we've never done this before, I'm sorry, that I've sold to a minor, it's not going to work. It can't work. We cannot allow that. So with that in mind, if this board decides to go ahead and issue this license, it behooves you both, and Mr. McFarland also, that you become educated, and that means we have a rule book available, a book of rules and regulations with Anne Arundel County, but there's also state laws that you have to be a little familiar with. I'm not trying to scare you, but at the same time, it is your responsibility. Like they used to say when they give you your driver's license, right? You take the test, you get a driver's license, and then you turn around and they tell you you're responsible to know all the rules and regulations of the road, and ignorance is no excuse. Okay? Is there anything else you'd like to say to the board to try to convince us that we should give you this license?
All I will add is the company has been around for 32 years. We're in 32 different states. We have 180 locations. So this is our first time with alcohol, but not the company's. And all of us will go through very comprehensive training before we even make it live on the company's behalf and whatever mail-in has to. And so this is, as a company, we take it very seriously as well, so that we can continue adding liquor licenses across different states.
Well, I think that's terrific. It is a requirement in this county that at least one licensee be alcohol awareness trained. I'd suggest it would behoove you to have all 3 of you alcohol awareness trained. It's basically a 4-hour course and a little test at the end. But it's important, and I think you'll find it pretty educational. If the mother company can help you out with, that's fine. But remember, you need to be aware of the local ordinances, rules, regulations, laws, and so forth. Okay? Any other questions or any other comments from the commissioners? Yeah. All right, I'm going to roll the dice and take a chance, because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. You're not coming in here with a whole lot of experience, and that's something we do look for. But like you say, you have a mother company or a corporation overseeing, and I'm sure they're going to keep an eye on it. But I think the most important part of this is we are available to help you. Don't be afraid to ask. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion that we do accept the application for a new license. Looking for a second.
I second.
Okay, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night. Lots of luck.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
The January 14th hearing for the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board is now recessed. Amen. Thank you. Good night, everybody.